Consolation of Philosophy, Prose 4. Then I answered, "Everything you say is true, dear nurse of all virtues. I do not deny that I came quickly to great prosperity, but the memory of it is what causes me the most pain. For in the midst of adversity, the worst misfortune of all is to have once been happy." "You are being punished for having misjudged your situation," Philosophy answered. "Therefore you have no right to blame the things which bother you. But if you are so impressed by this rather silly notion of happiness, based on good fortune, let us consider how very well off you are. Then, if you find that among all the gifts of fortune, your most precious possessions are still safely yours, thanks to God's providence, can you justly complain of misfortune? Your father-in-law, Symmachus, one of the finest men who ever lived, and one for whom you would gladly give your life, is still unharmed. That most wise and virtuous man lives in safety to lament the injuries you are suffering. Your wife, so gracious, so chaste, so like her father in excellence of character, still lives, though now she is weary of life and goes on only for your sake. Even I must concede that in her case your happiness is clearly marred, since her sorrow for your misfortunes is killing her. Think of your sons, the consuls, who already at their age showed the character of their father and grandfather. You are a happy man if you consider what you still have. The greatest concern of mortals is to preserve life, and you still possess things which everyone agrees are dearer than life itself. So dry your tears. Fortune has not yet done her worst to you. You have not become a derelict in the storm, since those anchors of present comfort and future hope hold fast. And I pray that they will continue to hold," I said, "for as long as they do, I shall not go down, no matter how bad things get. Still, you see yourself how much I have lost." "We have made some progress anyway," she answered, "if you have found something to be happy about. But I find your self-pity hard to bear when you moan childishly over the loss of some of your happiness. No one is so completely happy that he does not have to endure some loss. Anxiety is the necessary condition of human happiness, since happiness is never completely achieved and never permanently kept. The man who enjoys great wealth may be scorned for his low birth. The man who is honored for his noble family may be oppressed by such poverty that he would rather be unknown. Someone else may enjoy both wealth and social position, but be miserable because he is not married. Still another may be happily married, but have no children to inherit his fortune. Others have children only to be saddened by their vices. Therefore, no one is entirely satisfied with his lot. Each finds something lacking, or something which gives pain. Besides, those most blessed are often the most sensitive. Unless everything works out perfectly, they are impatient at disappointment and shattered by quite trivial things. It takes very little to spoil the perfect happiness of the fortunate. Just think how many people would consider themselves lucky to have only a small part of your remaining good fortune. This very place which you call a land of exile is home to those who live here. Nothing is miserable unless you think it so, and on the other hand, nothing brings happiness unless you are content with it. No one is so completely happy that he would not choose to change his condition if he let himself think about it impatiently. The joy of human happiness is shot through with bitterness, no matter how pleasant it seems when one has it. Such happiness cannot be kept when it decides to leave. You see then how shoddy is the enjoyment provided by mortal things. They forsake those who are content with them, and they do not satisfy those who are discontented. Why then do men look outside themselves for happiness which is within? You are confused by error and ignorance, and so I will point out to you the source of perfect happiness. Is there anything more precious to you than yourself? You will agree that there is nothing. Then if you possess yourself, you have something you will never want to give up, and something which fortune cannot take from you. If you will consider carefully the following argument, you will have to admit that happiness cannot depend on things which are uncertain. If happiness is the highest good of rational natures, and if nothing which can be lost can be a supreme good, because it is obviously less good than that which cannot be lost, then clearly unstable fortune cannot pretend to bring happiness. The man who enjoys fleeting happiness either knows that it is perishable or he doesn't. If he does not know it, his condition is unhappy because it rests on blinded ignorance. If he knows his happiness is perishable, he must live in fear of losing what he knows can easily be lost. and such constant fears will not let him be happy. And if he should lose it, should he think that a trivial matter? Whatever can be given up without regret is indeed a thing of little worth. Now, you are a man fully convinced by many proofs that human souls are in no way mortal. It is clear, then, that if transitory happiness ends with the death of the body, and if this means an end to all happiness, the whole human race would be plunged into misery by death. But if we know that many men have sought the enjoyment of happiness not only in death, but also in the sorrows and pains of life, how can this present life make us happy when its ends cannot make us unhappy? Poem 4. The prudent, steady man who wants a lasting place immune from the blasting winds and dangerous waves should avoid high mountain peaks and the shore's shifting sands. For the mountain tops are lashed by terrifying gale winds, and the loose sand of the beach will not bear his weight. Leave then the dangerous places of delight, and make your home safe on the low rocks. Though the wind trouble the sea with threats of destruction, you will live a serene life, happy for having built a strong house in the quiet valley, and laughing at the wrath of the elements. Prose 5. Now that I see that the soothing medicine of my discourse is taking effect, I think I might risk somewhat stronger remedies. Even if the gifts of fortune were not momentary and uncertain, there is nothing about them that can really ever be made your own, and they are vile in themselves if you look at them carefully. Are riches naturally precious, or are they precious because of some virtue of yours? What is precious about them, the gold medal or the pile of money? Wealth seems better when it is spent than when it is in the bank, for avarice makes men hated, but liberality makes them popular. But that which is given away is no longer possessed, so that money is more precious when it is generously got rid of. And if all the money in the world were acquired by one man, everyone else would be penniless. The sound of a voice can be given equally to many hearers, but money cannot be distributed among many persons without impoverishing those who give it up. Riches, then, are miserable and troublesome. They cannot be fully possessed by many people, and they cannot be acquired by some without loss to others. The brilliance of jewels is eye-catching, but the thing of special value is in the light of the gems rather than in the eye of the beholder. I am amazed that men prize them so highly, for what is there about a thing which lacks the life of a soul and the articulation of the body, which can be rightly thought beautiful by human beings who have living, rational natures? It is true that all things derive a certain beauty from the Creator and from their own variety, but they are too far beneath your excellence for you to marvel at them. You are, of course, delighted by the beauty of the open fields. And why not, since this is a beautiful part of a very beautiful creation? In the same way we are pleased by a serene sea, we admire the sky, the stars, the sun, and the moon. But do any of these things belong to you? How then can you glory in their splendor? You are not adorned with spring flowers, nor are you laden with summer fruit. When you act as though such external goods are your own, you are deluded by foolish satisfaction. Fortune can never make things yours which nature made foreign to you. No doubt the fruits of the earth are given to animals and men for their food. But if you simply wish to satisfy the demands of nature, there is no reason why you struggle for the superfluities of fortune. For nature's needs are few and small. If you try to glut yourself with too many things, you will find your excesses either unpleasant or positively harmful. Or perhaps you pride yourself on fine clothes. Well, if they are handsome to look at, I would admire either the quality of the material or the skill of the tailor. Possibly you think that a large number of servants can make you happy, but if they are unreliable or dishonest, they are pernicious influence in your house and extremely troublesome to their master. On the other hand, if they are good, how can their honesty be considered any virtue of yours? Therefore, it ought to be clear that none of these things which you are inclined to take credit for really belong to you. And if there is no desirable beauty in these things, why should you regret losing them, or be particularly elated to possess them? If they are beautiful by nature, what is that to you? They would be pleasing to you even if they belonged to someone else. They are not precious because you have them. You desire to have them because they seem precious. What then do you want from fortune with all your strident demands? I suppose you are trying to avoid poverty by acquiring possessions, but you will find just the opposite. You will need more in order to keep the various valuable things you have. Those who have much need much, and on the contrary, those who limit their possessions to their natural needs, rather than to their excessive ambitions, need very little. Do you try to satisfy your desires with external goods which are foreign to you, because you have no good within you which belongs to you? What an upside-down state of affairs when a man who is divine by his gift of reason thinks his excellence depends on the possession of lifeless bric-a-brac. Other creatures are content with what they have, but you, made in the likeness of God by virtue of your reason, choose ornaments for your excellent nature from base things, without understanding how great an injury you do to your Creator. God wished the human race to be superior to all earthly things, but you have lowered your dignity below the level of the most trivial things. For if it is true that a good thing in which something else finds its good is more precious than the something else which counts it as good, then when you judge vile things to be your goods, you lower yourself beneath them by your own estimate, and so deservedly become so. For man is constituted so that when he knows himself he excels all other things, but when he forgets who he is, he becomes worse than the beasts. It is natural for other living things not to know who they are, but in man such ignorance is vice. Your error is painfully evident if you suppose that a man can improve himself by adding ornaments that are not his own. It cannot be done. For if a thing attracts attention by added decorations, that which is added is praised, but that which is covered and disguised remains as base as ever. Moreover, I deny that anything can be considered good which harms the one who has it. I am sure that you will agree. And riches are frequently harmful to those who possess them. Desperate men are greedy for things that belong to others, and think that possession alone is enough to make a man worthy of riches and jewels. But you are fearful of losing your life. But if you had walked the road of life as a poor pilgrim, you could laugh in the face of thieves. What a blessing worldly riches are when you have them. You have lost your safety. Poem 5. Men were most happy in former ages, content with the yield of fertile fields, and not yet ruined by indolent luxury. Their hunger was easily satisfied by acorns. They did not know the potent mixture of wine and honey. They had not learned to color fine silk of Syria with Tyrian dye. They slept soundly on the soft grass, drank from the running streams, and rested in the shade of the high pines. Travelers had not yet sailed the high seas to visit foreign ports with their merchandise. Trumpets of war were silent, and blood had not with fierce hate dyed red the gory fields. For how could hostile fury drive men to take up arms when war offered no rewards for gaping wounds except the blood that was spilled? Would that our age could return to those ancient virtues, but now man's avarice burns more fiercely than Aetna's fires. Who was he that first dug up the buried gold, the gems that wished to remain hidden? And with them all our costly dangers. Prose 6. I shall now speak about the honors and power, which you praise to the sky because you are ignorant of the nature of true honor and power. If these gifts of fortune are given to a wicked man, they can cause more harm than floods or Aetna's eruptions. Surely you recall that your ancestors first freed the city from monarchy on account of what can any man do to another which another may not do to him. We recall that Bucerus, who was accustomed to kill his guests, was himself slain by his guest, Hercules. Regulus had bound many of his African captives in chain, but before long he was himself chained by his captors. How slight is the power of a man who cannot prevent someone else from doing to him what he does to others. Moreover, if honor and power were by nature good in themselves, they would never be found in wicked men, for opposites are rarely found together, and nature abhors the union of contraries. Since there is no doubt that wicked men are often honored, it is obvious that the kind of honor which can be achieved by the wicked is not good. And this is even more obviously the case with all the other gifts of fortune which are freely given to vicious men. It may also be said in this connection that no one doubts the courage of a man in whom he sees the marks of bravery, nor the swiftness of a man who obviously can run fast. Similarly, music makes musicians, medical skill makes doctors, rhetoric makes rhetoricians. For each thing does what is proper to its nature. It is not mixed with the characteristics of contrary things. Indeed, it repels its opposite. Therefore, riches cannot be separated from the insatiable avarice, nor can power make a man master of himself. Its vicious desires bind him with unbreakable chains. Honor bestowed upon wicked men does not make them honorable. On the contrary, it betrays and emphasizes their dishonor. And why does this happen? It happens because you choose to call things by false names, even though the things in question may be quite different, and the things are then found to contradict their names by their effects. Therefore, material possessions are not rightly called riches, worldly power is not true power, and public honor is not true honor. In the end, we reach the same conclusion about all the gifts of fortune. They are not worth striving for. There is nothing in their natures which is good. They are not always possessed by good men, nor do they make those good who possess them. Poem 6. Everyone knows the horrors done by Nero. He burned the city and murdered the senators. He cruelly killed his own brother and stained his hands with his mother's blood. He casually looked at her cold body and did not weep, as though he were merely the judge and critic of her dead beauty. Yet this man ruled all the people under the sun, from its rising in the east to its setting beneath the waves, all those under the cold northern stars and those scorched by the dry heat of the south winds which roast and burn the hot sands. But all this great power could not subdue the madness of this depraved man. When the evil sword of power is joined to the poison of passion, the commonwealth must groan under an intolerable burden.